Why not? Why don't we go ahead and call a motion on AB 361, Ashesian? Ask for a motion. We have a motion. Clerk, please call the roll.
AB 361, due pass to appropriations. Wisso?
Aye.
Wisso, aye. Fuller?
Aye.
Fuller, aye. Canella? Hertzberg? Hill?
Aye.
Hill, aye. Lara? Leyva?
Aye.
Leyva, aye. McGuire? Morel? Pavley? Morel, aye. Pavley?
Aye.
Pavley, aye. Walk. It has no case.
Committee's going to take a 5-minute break.
Oh.
Want to get some more people?
Just 5 minutes. Five minutes. Assemblymember Quirk. Welcome. You're going to present on AB 33.
Good morning, Chair and members. Yes. Assembly Bill 33 would establish the Energy Sector Emissions Reduction Advisory Council and charge it with analyzing various strategies that could be implemented to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from the electricity sector. The council would be composed of the Energy Commission, the Public Utilities Commission, the Independent System Operator, the State Water Resources Board, and the Air Resources Board. Many of these entities, well, these entities already meet on an ad hoc basis. However, AB 33 increases coordination, gives specific direction to the council, and ensures that these entities take into account both cost effectiveness and technical feasibility when conducting their analysis. The council would be required to analyze the cost and overall benefits to the state associated with emissions reduction and renewable energy grid integration strategies using the best available economic and analytical models. Some of these strategies include increasing the role of demand response, retrofitting existing electrical generation facilities to increase operational flexibility, transitioning to time of use or real-time pricing for all customer classes, and increasing energy efficiency along with several others. AB 33 would require the council to complete its work on a time frame established in consultation with CARB after allowing for public comment. So the council's efforts may be offered as recommendations for inclusion in CARB's next scoping plan update. AB 33 enjoys no opposition, and with me to testify in support are Mark Fenstermacher, on behalf of the Environmental Defense Fund, and Cassandra Goff on behalf of Calpine Corporation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Good morning. I am Mark Fenstermacher here on behalf of Environmental Defense Fund. AB 33 seeks to create the multi-agency council that Assemblymember Quirk just ran through with those agencies. Would provide those agencies a formal forum to come together, convene, discuss various strategies and analyze ways to integrate more renewable energy and to drive further reductions in greenhouse gases from the energy sector. Council will also provide information to CARB for their next update of the scoping plan. And this information and these strategies will be critical to achieving our post-2020 climate goals and renewable energy goals as envisioned in the governor's executive order from earlier in the year, as well as several bills currently being contemplated, such as Mr. Williams' bill that was just heard, as well as the Pro Tem's SB 350 and Senator Pavley's SB 350. AB 33 also includes a needed uniform set of criteria in which to evaluate these future strategies so that we may achieve our climate renewable energy goals at a lower cost. And that criteria is threefold. It's technical feasibility, cost effectiveness, and the extent to which the strategy's implementation would minimize overgeneration and maintain grid reliability while reducing greenhouse gases. We think AB 33 is an important and very needed bill, and we thank Mr. Quirk for authoring it and his leadership on this issue. Thank you for the opportunity to comment this morning, and we respectfully urge your vote.
Mr. Chair and members, Cassandra Goff with Calpine Corporation. Calpine was founded in San Jose, California 30 years ago with a commitment to sustainability, and that commitment has seen us through these last 30 years. We were an early supporter of AB 32 and proud to be the first energy company to support SB 32 and the governor's executive order as well. Calpine's fleet of natural gas and geothermal facilities is the cleanest fleet among the top 10 largest independent power producers in the country. As we move into this next phase of reducing our GHGs further and increasing renewables, we're all aware of some of the problems that may exist with overgeneration and flexibility and reliability. It's been discussed here just in the last bill, and we think it's important to look at all technologies and look at with the criteria mentioned earlier as to whether they're cost-effective, technically feasible, and promote reliability and address the overgen situation. We've also heard a lot of discussion in the legislature this year related to another bill about whether or not the legislature is getting too much power to CARB or one agency. And I think it's important here that we have all the energy agencies and their experts using all of their various modeling and requiring that they work together to assist CARB in helping CARB determine what are the most cost-effective, reliable, and technically feasible reductions we can get from the electric sector. And for those reasons, we support the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Michael Shaw, California Manufacturers and Technology Association. I'd like to echo the comments of Ms. Goff regarding this bill in particular and many of the reasons why we think it's a worthy bill to move forward. As I mentioned earlier, today, manufacturers pay a high premium for electricity. Overgeneration, grid reliability are concerns. So to the degree that this helps coordinate and develop strategies, further develop strategies that would address those issues, we think that it is a worthy thing to include. It'll help inform the scoping plan update that's forthcoming, and that will help California move forward in these areas. With the particular goals that we establish, through other legislation, are something I think we will consider, obviously, in those particular scenarios, situations. But this bill, I think, provides a good framework for whatever it is that we do going forward to ensure that we are considering those factors of grid reliability, affordability, and overgeneration.
Tiffany White on behalf of the Large Scale Solar Association in support.
Good morning. Gareth Elliott with the California Energy Storage Alliance in strong support.
Kim Schreiner on behalf of the U.S. Green Building Council in strong support. Thank you.
Do we have any opposition? Any speakers in opposition? Any pointers? Anybody else? Any questions, comments from Senator Pavley?
I think the concept's a very good one. Assemblymember Quirk on putting together a council. You're right. They've been meeting probably informally, and this will formalize that that relationship and the language of cost-effective and technology feasible. Way back in the Clean Car Law days in 2002, that's been a consistent thing that we all need to do. So I'd be glad to support this bill. I think I think it's a good way to review all programs and policies and make sure the right people are in the room and having this discussion. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator.
I'm struck very positively by most of the items in here, but I just have a few questions that we weren't able to get an answer for. We called the office, but we kind of called late yesterday. So, one, who will be the lead agency, or how will they determine that?
So among the people meeting right now, they're meeting, they call it the Energy Principles, and so far as I know, there is no lead agency. However, the lead agency for all of our AB 32 and eventually SB 32, I hope, goals is done through CARB. So ultimately, all of this has to go to CARB, and then CARB has to decide, has to put it in the scoping plan. In that sense, they're a lead agency for the whole state, but within this group, it's pretty much democratic.
Okay. And will the existing staff be used for research, and will funding come from each agency's existing budget?
I believe that'll be the case. Right now, the ISO is the group that really has the computer models that can handle this. If you look at the simulations that were done, for example, by E3, they basically model the state as two places, Northern California, Southern California, with the bottleneck in between. This literally looks at thousands of pathways for electricity. And only the ISO has this model. And they are currently, so they said, well, they have a model result that shows if you try and do things the way they were done, that doesn't work out very well. Now they're trying to find out what does work. They think regionalization may help. They're the group who really has this. They are doing these now. What this bill would do would be to formalize the process under which they transmit this information and to formalize their recommendations as to what's cost effective. So I look at the ISO here in terms of figuring out what would work as really a leader, and I look at, say, the Energy Commission as, well, we know about permitting, you know, it might be good to do so-and-so, but we think the permitting might not work out. The PUC might say, well, these regulations, blah, blah. These sorts of discussions would then be heard in this Energy Principles group, which has worked out quite well.
Great. Well, if I can take your thoughts that probably the agencies already have the resources that they need to do this because they are already doing this, and basically you're just adding Bagley-Keene, which gives more transparency. You are, in my mind, making a formalized role for the leaders of each of those agencies that have to implement this, and kind of gives an accountability trail for all the rest of us to follow and figure out what's going on. And as I indicated earlier, we certainly need an integration of minds, thinking how all of the delivery process works with the generation process, this siloed effect of having energy generation policy over here and implementation policy over here, I think is leading us down a difficult road. So I'll be supporting this bill at this time, but I will get off if it starts costing a lot down the road.
First of all, I'll take that as my close.
All right, thank you.
Very well. Do we have a motion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Due pass to Environmental Quality Committee, Wesso.
Aye.
Wesso I. Fuller.
Aye.
Fuller I. Canella. Hertzberg. Hill.
Aye.
Hill I. Lara.
Aye.
Lara I. Leva.
Aye.
Leva I. McGuire. Morel.
Aye.
Morel I. Pavley.
Aye.
Pavley I. Wolk.
That bill is out. We'll hold the roll open for absent members.
Thank you, Chair.
Senator Waso,
Yes,
what's
ma'am.
really interesting about his bill is putting the resources, the State Water Board, in the mix with the energy discussion, because I think moving forward, that water energy nexus is going to be increasingly important, whether addressing GHG reductions or just having a more thoughtful way to move and treat water, and maybe a real focus on more regional solutions as well. So we're trying to get the metrics right. but I'm glad those people are in the room because putting the Water
Right.
Board and the Energy Commission together, really a good idea.
And just generally,
Thank you.
Just a commentary, we're not discussing that bill anymore, so.
All right.
When you're ready.
Good morning. Good morning. I have two bills today, AB 825 and AB 1144. Do you have a preference?
However you like.
We'll start and we'll do 825. AB 825 is a part of a package of bills that meant to address the recent crisis at the PUC. The chair has authored some of those bills. Mr. Hill has authored some of those bills. Senator Leno has also authored some of those bills. I have a couple of bills relating to PUC reform. One is 1023, which deals with an ex parte log, and the other one is this bill, AB 825, which deals with transparency. I'm committed to working with my colleagues here in the Senate as well as my colleagues in the Assembly on this important package of PUC reform bills. Like many of you, I've read over the past month or so the Strumwasser report, the O'Neill report, which detail in great depth some of the problems at the PUC relating to inappropriate contacts between the PUC staff, PUC commissioners, and those folks who they're meant to regulate. There are also several examples of decisions that are meant to be made in public, but were made behind closed doors. AB 825 and the attendant bills in the Senate help to address a number of these issues individually, and I think collectively would go a long way towards rebuilding public confidence in the PUC. AB 825 deals specifically with transparency, confidentiality, and oversight. With respect to transparency, AB 825 would allow for the online publication of several documents, including commission approval on energy pricing, hearing records, document transcripts, commission reports, and advice letters. With respect to confidentiality, AB 825 would not challenge the right to confidentiality. It would it would establish a process. It would not challenge confidentiality, nor would it challenge the presumption for confidentiality. Instead, it would establish a process through which confidentiality could be questioned through a document-by-document review. With respect to oversight, AB 825 would create an inspector general position, which would be part of the state auditor, and the inspector general would be responsible for providing a detailed and independent oversight of AB 825. In conclusion, the PUC has proven, when you look at the Strumwasser report, when you look at the O'Neill report, you see an agency that has been captured by those companies that it was meant to regulate. It's an agency that is in tremendous need of reform. I think this bill is, again, part of the package of initiating that reform. I look forward to working with members of this committee, members of the Senate, and members of the Assembly in those reform efforts. I ask for your aye vote.
In support? Did you have anybody in support wish to register some comments? Anyone in opposition, if you would start making a line, or anybody in between also if you'd like to come forward, just to come forward if you're.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Jim Ewert with the California Newspaper Publishers Association. We are in support of the bill. It's a reasonably balanced bill, and we urge your aye vote. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members, James Jack on behalf of CalTel. The author and his staff have done an excellent job working to improve transparency and due process for all stakeholders. We thank him very much for his work in this effort and support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any questions from the committee? Closing comments?
I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
We have a motion from Senator Lara.
Oh, I unmoved that.
Oh, okay. Senator Leyva moves the bill. Clerk, please call the roll.
I just wanted to comment, and it's an excellent bill. It is part of that comprehensive goal I think we all have to achieve better results from the PUC, and thank the chair and Senator Leno for being part of that.
Well said, Senator Hill.
Thank you for your efforts,
I do
Senator.
echo those comments. We have a motion now from Senator Leyva. Clerk, please call the roll.
Do pass to the Senate Committee on Judiciary. Wesso?
Aye.
Wesso, aye. Fuller?
Aye.
Fuller, aye. Canela? Hertzberg? Hill?
Aye.
Hill, aye. Laura?
Aye.
Laura, aye. Leyva?
Aye.
Leyva, aye. McGuire? Morel? Morel, aye. Pavley? Wolk?
That bill is
On call.
out. We'll hold it open for the absent members. 1144,
Thank you.
Assemblymember.
AB 1144 makes a small change in the renewable portfolio's bucket system to help public wastewater agencies finance infrastructure to transform an air pollutant into electricity. The bill allows energy produced by public wastewater agencies and the renewable energy credits they generate to be sold in Bucket 1, which can generate higher revenues for these public agencies to pay for the construction of the infrastructure to take the methane produced by wastewater and create electricity. Regardless of what we do here today, public agency wastewater treatment plants will continue to generate methane, which is an air pollutant. So wastewater agencies have two options. They can either flare off that methane, which reduces but does not eliminate air pollution, or they can build the infrastructure that allows that methane to become electricity. This bill supports that second option by financing the construction of the energy infrastructure at public wastewater plants. AB 1144 also helps reduce air pollution in the form of methane. Finally, this renewable energy is created and used right here in California, which is the essence of Bucket 1. Wish to express my thanks for your committee staff for identifying the issues that we have been discussing with stakeholders for several months. I remain committed to addressing those issues. I appreciate the time. The stakeholders have also committed to considering how to resolve these issues as well. I ask for your aye vote.
Mr. Chairman and members, Mike Dillon representing the California Association of Sanitation Agencies, a major wastewater agency serving about 90% of the state's population. Just to briefly add to what Mr. Rendon stated, many of our agencies capture and convert the biogas to on-site energy. However, some of the smaller plants and even some of the mid-sized plants can't make their projects pencil out, and that's what this is all about. So instead of capturing the biogas, they just flare it. So the potential projects could help lower greenhouse gas emissions, alleviate demand on the grid, and even create in-state jobs. As amended, to be perspective only, we're really talking again about the small and some medium-sized plants. And lastly, we would just appreciate Mr. Rendon's efforts to highlight the many benefits of behind-the-meter power and how it can help the state achieve its climate change goals. Thank you.
Yes, I'm Sharon Green. I'm with the Sanitation Districts of Los Angeles County. We do produce a lot of renewable power, including at our largest wastewater plant. In that case, it's a very large plant, and it has been able to pencil out. We have a 20-megawatt digester gas generating facility, and we can power the entire 400 million gallon a day wastewater plant. But we have many smaller plants where we haven't been able to make that work, and we would love to be able to do so, but the economics are pretty tough, and it does seem like because the power is being produced in California and used in California, it is renewable, meets the definitions of renewable power, that we would just like to be able to see it counted as renewable power in California. And we thank the author for bringing this bill forward. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Jennifer Franklin, East Bay Municipal Utility District, in support.
Gil Topete with the California Municipal Utilities Association. We have a supportive amended position. We are very appreciative of the author coming forward with this bill. Some of our members would benefit from the RECs being counted as Bucket 1. We know it's a challenge. We do have desires for a broader solution, but this speaks to, if we can't figure out a way to do it just for one kind of facility to count, that does speaks to the difficulty, but these issues are not insurmountable. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Are we still in support?
Support if amended.
Okay, that's fine. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Mario DiBernardo with the Northern California Power Agency. We have a support if amended position. We have a very technical amendment that we shared with the committee, changing the term unbundled to any to avoid unintended consequences at the regulatory level. We also are asking that the bill apply to existing wastewater treatment facilities that then install the infrastructure to generate electricity after January 1st, 2016. The city of Roseville is one of our members, publicly owned utility. They have an existing wastewater treatment facility. They would certainly use this bill, consider this bill in helping them make investments to change or to install the infrastructure to generate energy. Thank you.
Nick Pappas with Southern California Edison. We are in support. We appreciate this, the authors moving an incremental step forward towards addressing the DG in the renewable portfolio standard discussion. But as you heard earlier today, we do think that needs a broader discussion in some of the other bills moving forward. Thank you.
Do we have any opposition?
Amber Blix with the Independent Energy Producers Association. We reluctantly oppose AB 1144, which allows unbundled renewable energy credits, which currently count as bucket 3 under the RPS, to now move to bucket 1. IEP is concerned that AB 1144 unravels the delicate balance that was enacted when the 33% RPS was passed. The bucket structure is based on different product definitions, and once we begin to make exceptions to how those product definitions apply, we believe that we begin to undermine the RPS framework as a whole. So while the bill is narrowly focused, IEP is concerned that AB 1144 also opens the door to a whole host of other similarly situated resources that would like to have the same treatment. You heard earlier on previous bills that we were talking about behind-the-meter DG that would also like to count towards bucket 1. We think that this bill kind of runs the risk of opening that door. While it is narrowly focused, we think that discussion is going on. So while we do support the methane capture for electricity generation as a mechanism to further reduce greenhouse gas emissions and improve air quality, we don't support altering the RPS as a means to finance the infrastructure to do that. We think that we would like to work with the sponsors to develop this framework that can achieve these well-intentioned objectives outside of the context of the RPS. And that's one point that I just wanted to make clear. IEP isn't necessarily against a lot of these other programs, but we are against including them as part of the RPS. We think the RPS has been a program that has been successful, and the more we kind of try to pick at what has worked, we think that is problematic. So as we said, we respect the intentions of the bill. We like those, but we just want to do it outside of the context of the RPS.
Thank you. Melissa Cortez-Roth on behalf of the California Wind Energy Association. I want to echo the comments of IEP. We share the same concerns regarding opening that door to behind the meter within the context of the RPS. As my colleague testified, there is sort of a delicate balance. You heard previous testimony in another bill on issues with Commerce Clause regarding opening that door. And the analysis does a very good job of reviewing the issue of double counting with the behind-the-meter generation. We do recognize that this is a very narrowly crafted bill and did engage early on with the author's office to try and find a solution for wastewater. We hope to continue those conversations, but right now we are respectfully opposed and ask for your no vote.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members. Ignacio Hernandez on behalf of the Utility Reform Network. We also have an opposed position. We've had conversations with the author's office, and we'll continue to do so if the bill moves forward. We do have a number of concerns, including the double counting. We've provided some ideas and suggestions to address that, and we'll continue the conversation if the bill moves forward.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the committee? Senator Fuller? And then Senator Leyva? And Senator Lott.
Well, I agree that small wastewater plants, especially the newer ones, are going to need some financial solution, absolutely. All of our new mandates that are forcing that on small communities that can't afford it, that is a looming disaster. So I appreciate the problem, and I thank you for that. But my understanding is the aim of this bill is to allow wastewater treatment facilities which have the capacity to generate biogas to sell renewable energy credits and use those funds to invest in upgrading their biogas infrastructure. Is that correct?
Yes, and also to avoid them from having to flare off the methane.
And if this is the case, why does the bill limit REC sales to newer facilities built on or after January 1st, 2016? Shouldn't newer facilities already be considered the most efficient and best equipped technology before being built? it seems that the older facilities would benefit more from this than the newer facilities.
I understand the direction of the question and the comment earlier with respect from the folks at Roseville sounds quite valid. It's something that hasn't been discussed. Very much looking forward to working with folks on that issue. And anything you wanted to add?
Sure. Jessica Gauger with the California Association of Sanitation Agencies. I do think that the intent of the bill, from our perspective, was to be for existing facilities who were going to be adding on these new energy capture facilities. And we have been having that conversation with the stakeholders and look forward to continuing that discussion.
My concern is, I mean, the model for payout on this is very long, even if it's the older facilities, which are more likely to be able to produce, unfortunately, more of the gas. And so, you know, the way the bill is amended, it just seems to me that the payout goes so long that it's really not really a solution that's really going to be workable over time. And I'd rather see this bill maybe start over and go in a direction that helps wastewater treatment plants a little more. So, you know, I won't be on the bill at this time, but I am open to what we can do about trying to help small communities with wastewater treatment plants, because all the new anti-septic tank laws and whatever else has forced them into a proverbial corner. And wastewater treatment is a tremendously expensive undertaking. So I think, you know, to say we have a model that might do it, that doesn't come close, is worse than not having a model at all, and we're still struggling trying to find the answer. So I won't be with you today, but please keep me informed.
We will.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Assemblymember Rendon.
Morning.
I have a question about the double counting.
Sure.
Is that in fact true that the wastewater treatment plants would be allowed to double count? And if they do, why would we not open that option to others?
Right. Would you address that as well?
Sure. I think that it was not the intent to be able to double count, and we have been, again, talking about with the other stakeholders ways to address that issue. There have been several sort of iterations of language to be able to do that, and we would continue working with them to find some kind of solution so that that was not the case.
That would be great. Thank you.
If I may add,
Absolutely.
it's also yesterday in Assembly, UNC, we heard AB 350, SB 350, apologies. And I think this is part of that sort of larger conversation about, for example, with DG, is that considered double counting? And I think a lot of that will be fleshed out in the larger conversation about RPS.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Letta.
Thank you. You know, the questions I have are just more broad in terms of the use of cap and trade fundings in general, and not having fully kind of talked about the entirety of what everything is, all the bills that are going on when it comes to the use of cap and trade funds. I don't feel comfortable moving, you know, this type of energy to bucket one yet until we actually have a broader discussion of what our overall state goals are going to be. I want to support this because to give you a vehicle to have a broader discussion, but you know, as somebody, you know, we share our districts, right, and one of the most heavily impacted communities as the Inland Empire. You know, when we do get you know, some wind in LA, all the pollution goes straight into the 909, and so we have to really look more comprehensively in terms of the use of our cap and trade funds, and ensuring that we're investing in the technologies that really make more of an impact. And this might be it. I just don't feel comfortable right now treating renewables generated by wastewater treatment facilities any different to any other on-site generation. So my concern is more just broader in terms of how we discuss more in general how we get our best or more, you know, bang for our buck per se. So I'm prepared to, you know, support this now because I want to give you a vehicle to be able to continue to have those discussions. But I'm not sure yet that I'm ready to, you know, incentivize and kind of. I agree with some of the opposition in terms of how this affects the overall RPS framework. So, as we continue to have the discussions, I think we just need to have a better conversation. And how do we prioritize again those communities that are already heavily impacted, which the original intent of the cap and trade funds were to actually address those issues all throughout the Central Valley, throughout the LA Basin and the Sacramento Valley. So I just think we have to have a broader conversation.
Thank you, Senator, and I agree. And I think that you've been a champion on the issue of cap and trade funds and where they go and how they're allocated. And we've had several discussions with the chair and with the chair's staff about what AB 1144 means within the broader discussion. What does it mean with SB 350 moving forward? What does it mean with Assemblymember Williams' similar bill? And a lot of this does seem in flux. We don't seek to we all know that the goal of RPS is not to sort of privilege any technology over any other, and I think that was the reason for having such a sort of narrow definition in this bill, to make sure that it was only public agencies and it related to wastewater. But I certainly do understand your comments. Thank you.
Well, is that your closing comment?
Yes, it is.
No, very good. Very efficient. Do we have a motion on this bill?
So moved.
Do we have a motion by Senator Lara? Clerk, please call the roll.
Do pass to appropriations. Wesso?
Aye.
Wesso, aye. Fuller?
No.
Fuller, no. Canella? Hertzberg? Hertzberg, aye. Hill? Hill, aye. Lara?
Aye.
Lara, aye. Leyva? Leyva, aye. McGuire? McGuire, aye. Morel? Morel, no. Pavley? Wolk? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 to 2. It has enough votes. Do you want to leave it on?
That bill is, we'll leave it open. We'll give Senators Wolk and Pavley some time to come back and add on.
Thank you,
We're
Senators.
gonna, thank you.
Thank you.